item merge and
Yeah, so, okay.
edit item IDs.
So item merging and item ID changes, I think we take these two together, right? Neither one of them is a huge feature. We can cover it, I think, pretty quickly. So people that are in this situation, they know the pain and suffering of, hey, we have the same part number has been created twice. We need to bring them together. There is a feature in P21 to correct this, and it's called merge items or something like that. Item merge. And so this is just going to allow you to take everything out of one item that is your history, your inventory, your open sales orders, all of that stuff, all your costs, and bring it over and all under one item ID. Now, it is irreversible. Number one. Number two, I think after you do it, you do need to reforecast that item, because I don't think that happens on its own.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Number three, it depending on the items involved. Like if it's a couple of items that don't have a lot of history, it's pretty painless. But if these are items that have been around a long time, a lot of transactions, things like that, this is intensive. We have seen this deadlock people's systems when they use it during business hours. So it's something that you have to put some thought into about, the when, the how, the where that you're going to do it. So let's see, new. So we're going to go from a new item to one of our many flavors of Palmolive soap. You can choose to keep the old item ID as an alternate or not. There's a business case for both of those. Mm-hmm. You can choose to keep item restrictions if you are using those. So in this case, we will keep the alternate. We're not using restrictions. That doesn't make any difference.
Keep in mind, if they have different suppliers, all the suppliers are merged. Like they get
right. Like anything that was on the old item that wasn't on the new gets added, but I believe the item you're going to, that primary supplier stays the way it is.
I don't know what it does with unit of measures.
I don't want to know.
I think it doesn't do anything with unit of measures. I think all that's still based on the two item.
So you do get a result, like it tells you whether or not it was successful and all of that good stuff. So that is there for you. And then if we go to item maintenance, then we do a new item.
You don't have advanced search term, so it's not going to find. Or it's not going to.
Yeah, you put the old item ID in, it will flip it, because we did retain it as an alternate code. So that is how that works. Again, the biggest thing about it is there is a performance hit when you do this, but that performance hit really depends on how much data we're actually talking about. There's really just no better way to say it than that.
Yeah, I mean, this is useful for somebody created an item for an item our item ID for an item that already existed, and it really doesn't have any history other than maybe a couple orders.
Nope.
And you just want to bring it in. If these are two items that have been around for 10 years,
it's going to take a hot minute.
Yeah, I don't know if item merge is what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, if one of the items has been kind of like dead for a while and you don't necessarily need to merge it, you could delete the old item and then just adjust the usage history. That would probably get you 90% of the way there. But again, that's kind of a hacky way around it. The other thing we've seen people use it for, which I guess makes sense, is supplier A buys out supplier B. They both sell the same products and they all get merged up into one. Okay. I think it really just depends on what's the importance of retaining the history. That's probably really what defines it, at least in my mind. Editing an item ID, the that's just exactly what it sounds like. You need to edit the item ID and change it into something else. So it's the same thing. What item are we changing? I'm not actually going to save this one. But you put in a proposed item ID, it's going to validate that to make sure that that doesn't exist already. This, I believe, also by default, well, you don't even have a choice. It does keep the old one as an alternate, right?
Yeah. And you can always go in and manually check the delete box on it if you want to.
Yeah. One thing I will say, and I know we're going to do pricing service separately, which is fine. But you can do a layout with 2 columns, old item ID, new item ID, or something like that, or item ID and proposed item ID. And you can make mass changes for item ID edits really, really easy with pricing service. So it's definitely something to consider as an option if you need to do, like, hey, this supplier just bought this supplier and all the supplier part numbers changed, or and that means our item IDs have to change because they're based on the supplier part number. Whatever, that will work, and it's a great way to do it.
Only thing I'll add to the both merging and editing item IDs, and this is more of a product of the way some of our data was constructed for reports and portals, and we used Focus. It broke some of our reporting data. Most likely, I think probably because we were keying off an item ID instead of
INV UID. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you all of a sudden are looking at a report that looks completely off, that maybe that's a thing to look at. And it was a big problem for us just because all your reports and everything should be using UIDs instead of the item ID.
To the most extent possible, that is for sure.
And you can still display the item ID, but that may be a bit in the weeds for some. But